I've made quite a few videos about Welsh people in this channel. As the theme is Welsh history, that's natural enough. But this one is different. It's because it's about a man who was not Welsh. He came to Wales, set up a very successful business, and left his mark on the landscape in more ways than one.
Archibald Hood was a Scotsman and a colliery owner. I think it's fair to say that coal owners of past centuries are, in general, not looked upon kindly from today's perspective. There was the contrast of vast fortunes being made by a few, with the hardship for many of life in mining communities, especially the harsh and unhealthy working conditions and the everyday accidents and occasional disasters that took many lives.
So was Hood just another wicked capitalist and exploiter of his workforce, or was there a more benevolent side to the man?
Hood was born in 1823 in Kilmarnock, Ayrshire, Scotland. His father was a colliery foreman. After his mother died, Hood's father brought him up. He received little formal education, but when Hood Sr. became a colliery manager, the young Archibald had the opportunity to study mining engineering. And he became a very skilled mining engineer, going on in later life to publish a number of technical papers and introducing new technology. He also possessed an entrepreneurial spirit. He leased a Scottish colliery and ran it so efficiently that he soon acquired several more. He wanted not only to improve the mines in his ownership, he also determined to provide better living conditions for miners and their families. He built terraced houses, each with a garden that could be used for leisure or growing food. It was an idea he was to bring to Wales.
In the 1860s, as the South Wales coal industry was massively expanding, Hood saw an opportunity. He invested in the Rhondda Valley Coal Company, which was based in the village of Rhondda Valley. It was later renamed the Glamorgan Coal Company, and Hood took full control.
After securing mineral rights from landowners, he sank his first pit in Llwynapere in the Rhondda Valley in 1863. To help carry out the work, he had brought experienced mine workers down from Scotland. Within a decade, he had sunk 5 shafts in the Llwynapere area, mining top-quality coal seams. Much fueled the ships of the Royal Navy. A coking plant had been opened to process the coal. Its output was known as Hood's Coke. He promoted the use of new technology in mining to improve efficiency and working conditions, such as compressed air power and electrical equipment. Also, Hood made a business out of mining waste. He set up a brickworks using fire clay extracted from below ground. Women employees used hand moulds to produce as many as 10,000 bricks a day. They were all stamped with the brand Glamorgan.
Because of its Scottish owner and many Scots workers, the Glamorgan colliery was widely known as the Scotch colliery, or sometimes just Llwynapere colliery.
Things were going so well in the Rhondda that Hood and his family moved permanently to South Wales, setting up home in Newport Road, Cardiff. As he had done in Scotland, Hood built homes for his workers and their families. They're still here, 2 down and 3 up houses. These are the so-called Scotch terraces on the border of Llwynapere and Torrapandi. They were made with Hood's bricks, of course, and they had rear gardens and are still lived in today, more than a century and a half after construction.
He supported the creation of a miners' institute with a library to promote education and learning, and also the creation of a swimming pool and bowling greens.
As coal output from the South Wales Valley soared, distributing it to customers became a growing problem. There was rail congestion and delays in getting it to Cardiff docks to be loaded onto ships. The railway operator, the Taff Vale Rail Company, had a monopoly, and the Cardiff docks were owned by the Marquess of Bute. Without competition, the costs of transporting coal were very high. Coal owners, led by David Davis of Llandinam, an owner of the Ocean Colliery Company, were persuaded to see the benefit of creating a docks at Barry and a new railway line to serve it. The Barry Dock and Railway Company was created in 1884. Hood was one of the people behind the idea and later became the company's deputy chairman. It was quite an engineering challenge. One of the notable developments was the creation of the Walnut Tree Viaduct, constructed to support the line above the valley at Taffswell, just north of Cardiff. It was an impressive sight, but today only a giant supporting pillar remains as a reminder of the viaduct that once stood here.
Hood continued to be successful in South Wales. His son moved back to Scotland to manage the collieries there. Active to the end, Hood died in 1902 at the age of 79. His final hours were recounted in a local newspaper.
He was buried at Cathays Cemetery in Cardiff. Here is the memorial to Hood and other members of his family. A few months later, his will was published. He left £210,000. It may not sound that much, but consider that it's the equivalent of about £33 million today. Archibald Hood had created a very large mining operation with a workforce of just over 2,300 on the payroll at the time of his death. He built homes and public facilities, helped to found a railway line, and it must be said his coal spoil tips changed the contours of the valley's hillsides, at least temporarily.
So back to that key question about what kind of man Archibald Hood was. He was obviously a very good businessman. He tried to make his pits more efficient and safer. He spent money on decent housing and on providing public facilities. So either he did all of that out of philanthropy or enlightened self-interest. You take your pick. But after his death, several people in tributes to him spoke of him as a good and true friend. And it was also mentioned that he had a very healthy sense of humour.
But what about his employees, the miners and their families? What did they think of him? It appears that they respected him and thought him, at the very least, a fair man. Miners contributed from their modest pay packets to raise £600 for a large bronze statue of their former boss. There was also a memorial light and drinking fountain in his honour called the Lady of the Lamp, which stood in Torrapandi Square for some years.
The monument was badly damaged when someone drove into it, but the lamp part of it was restored and it now stands nearby in a car park and garden area.
The statue was unveiled by the great trade unionist and MP William Abraham, better remembered by his bardic name of Mabon. He had been leader of the Cambrian Miners' Association and was later MP for the Rhondda. So, tellingly, the former workers' leader was prepared to honour the coal baron.
And here behind me is that statue. It stands today in what was once the grounds of Ffoynipier Library. Archibald Hood can be seen pointing towards the Glamorgan Colliery. That colliery ceased production in 1945, and the buildings of Hood's time have long gone. But the statue here is a reminder of a man who left his mark on the history of Rhondda and South Wales.